What's up, guys? Welcome to the sesh. Today I got a very special guest, but before I introduce him, we've been trying to fight obesity here in the Rio Grande Valley, and I think I have taken off more than I can chew, and I have an expert here that can kind of guide us along the situation and help us understand what it really means to be obese here in the Rio Grande Valley and how we can combat it. So please introduce yourself, man.
Yes, my name is Brandon Harper, and I'm a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and a certified personal trainer.
Awesome. So the thing that sparked this was the Jesse James West video. It went viral, and we had already known this before. We just kind of like throw it under the rug. That's how the Rio Grande Valley is. I can say that because I've been here all my life.
Right.
How do we fight obesity in the Rio Grande Valley? Like, is it an uphill battle? Like when I jumped on this first, I'm very ambitious, and I'm like, yes, I want to help as many people as I possibly can. But the more I learn about it, the less I want to be with it.
Yeah. It's very difficult. It's not something as easy as changing one thing or another. The thing about modifying your behavior is that it's a constant battle. Mm-hmm. It's something you have to do every day. And in a world where instant gratification is so common, everything is now what we want. We want the results now. We want everything to happen now. You know, you go and you run and you want to see the scale change. But what we kind of sometimes don't understand or can't remember is that all those habits we've built, all that weight we've put on, it wasn't overnight, you know? It happened over a long amount of time. It's years of habits that have been built upon that have gotten you to the point you're at. And so it takes, a good amount of time to reverse those habits. And you have to start small. You can't go from, not exercising to going into a 2-hour gym session.
Waking up at 5 in the morning. Yeah.
Exactly. And most people's like, well, new year, new me. This new year, I'm gonna go do weights for 2 hours, and then I'm gonna run for 30 minutes, and then I'm gonna go just to eat salads. And it's just not like that. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is trying to make it sustainable. You want this to be a lifestyle, not a diet. You never want a short-term diet. You want
because people have a negative image of the word diets.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, the things that are out there, I've seen like the egg diet, the soup diet, the cabbage soup diet. It's all over the place. And it's not that, incorporating a salad is bad. But if you can't sustain it, then it's not realistic for you to keep that lifestyle, make that change, to feel and reap the benefits of those good habits.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you firsthand, when I started my fitness journey 9 months ago, I had no intention of getting on a diet or working out. I was very comfortable in my life. And my partner, Rob, was like, well, let's go start working out with our buddy, Mike, who's a personal trainer. And I didn't get results till like 5 months later. And I know why people fall off, because it takes so damn long to get the results. But when they started coming, I was like, oh, I like this. This is cool. But it takes so long. And through that journey, I learned how food really affected my life. And it's a very interesting thing, because I eat the same things that everybody else eats around here. I eat tamales. I eat tacos in the morning. I go to Stripes and get these flour tortillas. The one thing that helped me was when I started alternate day fasting. It really showed me the relationship with food. And I always talk about alternate day fasting, but I know not everybody can do it. It's not for everybody, and I just got lucky at that point. What are some practical steps that people can do, like today after they listen to this podcast? What are some practical steps that people can do to change to a healthier lifestyle?
Yeah, I think some very quick things to implement. Drink more water. Sometimes you're like, oh, I'm hungry, or I just want something, and it's your body kind of being thirsty. Mm-hmm. So drinking more water helps eliminate that false hunger, helps keep you hydrated, helps keep you good. Also, not waiting till you're hungry to eat. It's like when you go grocery shopping and you're hungry, you're going to buy everything. So not letting that hunger strike, eating every, 3 to 4 hours, keeping yourself satisfied. And when you eat, not eating till you're going to burst, till your shirt's about to pop its buttons off, eating to like an 80% satiety. You want to feel like you could eat more, but you'll be fine too if you don't finish eating.
Well, I think one of the things is that we're taught from birth and joined into childhood that we should finish every single thing on our plates. And when we don't, it's usually our dad that eats the rest of the stuff. That's been ingrained into our life since we're born. Do you see a problem with that?
Yeah, definitely. That's something really big in dietetics. It's something that they've been actually trying to address, is that our bodies are very good at knowing what it needs and what it doesn't need. And early on, children have a very good sense of when they're hungry, when they're full, when they've had enough. And as you grow up, going to your point, that finish the plate mentality, you get used to these big portions, because it's not like they serve you the portions that you're supposed to have. It's bigger portions, and it's like, you got to finish your plate. You got to finish your plate. So you get that ingrained to the point where some people feel like guilty if they don't eat it. And like you mentioned.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, like you mentioned, if the kids don't eat it, who ends up eating it? The dad. Which goes into like, maybe there's low-income families here in the Valley. Low-income is a very big thing. They don't have enough money to just not eat the food,
Exactly.
So it's like, well, I'm not going to let the food go to waste. The dad eats it.
Yeah.
Or the mom eats it, or someone else.
Or they put it in the fridge that ends up staying there for like 5 days, and then you end up throwing it away.
Exactly. So you can see where that starts to become a problem as the portions get bigger, as you grow up, and you lose that sense of knowing how to monitor when you're satisfied.
Yeah.
Not full, not, oh man, I'm gonna just burst. I can't even move from how much I've eaten. You want to feel good. You want to feel satisfied just enough to the point where, you know what? I'm okay. This can hold me off for a couple hours.
Yeah. Well, surprisingly enough, I like to use Facebook polls and Instagram polls and ask questions. And I was asking about McAllen being the most obese city in the nation. And I don't think people really understand that. Like, they hear it, but they don't understand that McAllen is the most obese city in the nation. In the nation. That's mind-boggling to me. What is it about the Rio Grande Valley that we have that? Why do we hold that title?
Yeah, so personally, I feel like, Mexicans make really good food. Our cooking is rich. It's very good. Now, lifestyle in Mexico is very different than here. So you bring some of the elements, traditional foods that we enjoy. Then all of a sudden, you get to Texas, and you got to supersize it. You got to Texasize it. Then every event has food. If you get together with your family, you eat. If you're watching the Super Bowl, you're going to eat.
Yeah.
If you go even to like activities that are even a little more active, you go golfing, you drink. All these activities that just start adding up, that everything involves food. It's a social. We're very social.
Yeah.
So we want to spend time with our friends and loved ones, and all those activities end up involving food. And it's not just, everyone gets a plate. You do the carne asada. It's big portions. It's big amount of foods. Everyone's eating. You don't monitor. You enjoy the time with your family. But the problem becomes when it's not one meal. One meal's not going to throw you off. You can enjoy your Thanksgiving meal. You can enjoy your Christmas meal. But when that portion and that big size starts to happen, Thanksgiving, the day after, 2 days after, 3 days after, the week after, all of a sudden, it becomes this cycle that you just don't break. So having that culture and the culture of finish your food, finish these big portions, it just starts adding up so quickly, and it's very easy to just get stuck there.
My buddy Jerry was talking about that when we were growing up, that we eat the same foods our parents eat, and they end up getting sick later in life. And we eat the same foods that our friends eat, and they end up getting sicker in life. How do we break that? How do we break that mentality? It's like we're eating the same foods, and it's being taught to us since we're young. We don't know. Is it a lack of education, or what is it?
Yeah, it's lack of education. You have to address it young. It's very common to see that health is not a priority. A father's priority is to provide for his family, to work. Sometimes that's a long shift, whether that's sitting down for 8 hours plus, not moving, working in an office, or having a different kind of job. Their priority is to put food on the table. The mom's priority is either to work, or they're working at home, taking care of the kids. The kid's priority is grades, school. So easy to neglect health, to see it as like it's it's an not a necessity. It's like a luxury.
Right.
So your health, little do they realize it, all of a sudden if your health goes down, you can't work. If your health goes down, you can't provide. And all these things, medical bills start to pile up, things like that. So I've seen, and talking to other people, it's very easy to lose sight that health is important. Sleeping is important. Eating right is important. And all that helps you to continue to work and provide for your family and to allow your kids to grow up strong, healthy, to get those better grades. It's so easy to stay up late, to study for a test.
Yeah.
But studies show that if you were to just go to sleep, wake up a little earlier and study, you actually perform better on your test.
Interesting.
So things like that health is not made a priority. It's just treated like more of a luxury.
Yeah. I would be as bold as saying that the Rio Grande Valley really doesn't give a shit about diet. And I there's more cues that are coming our way that are backing that up, because I did a poll on Instagram and I said, does the valley even care? And 71% of people said no. And these are people that are fit. The ones that said yes are the ones that are obese. It's a very interesting thing.
I think at that point it's trying to see what the concept of healthy is, because it's very common to say, well, I cook at home, so it's healthy.
Right.
It's healthier. Maybe it's not as healthy. I think it comes from a lack of awareness. Many times you hear people saying, yeah, I'm doing 1,200 calories. I'm eating 1,200 calories, but I'm just not losing weight. And you go back and you start, some people like to track their diet. You start tracking how you're eating, and all of a sudden you're not eating 1,200 calories. You're eating more like 2,000 calories.
Yeah.
Things that people don't consider. What you drink has calories. It's so easy to drink calories. There's a study that if you just cut out soda and like sugary drinks out of your diet, in a year you'd lose 12 pounds.
Wow.
Just your drink.
Just drink.
Changing nothing else. So things like that you just don't notice, and it's a lack of awareness. It's, eat this. It's healthy. It's fine. It's just tortillas or it's whole grain. But if you're overeating, it's still putting you in a calorie surplus, and that weight's not going to come down.
Yeah. I feel like when you talk about diet or you tell somebody the way they should eat, they get offended. Do you see that on
It's a
your
very
end?
sensitive topic. Weight, food, habits. Again, because all these things are so close to home.
Yeah.
How you eat is tied into how your family grew up. It's personal for you. Your weight. No one wants to be told, you're obese, you're overweight, you're unhealthy. It's very sensitive. It's something that you can't help them if they don't want to help themselves.
Yeah.
You have to be very patient, have a lot of tact with how you say things.
But also at that point, it's like, do you want to have the patience to help somebody? Is it because I feel for me, like, I really had to look at myself in the mirror and said, I'm fat. Like, I'm obese. I need to do something about it. And then I started going on the journey, and that's when I learned how to eat. Like, after 41 years, I started to learn how to eat. Like, that's a long time. And I'm sure I'm the perfect demographic for this. We have a campaign that's going on right now. It's 100,000 strong. And our goal is to help 100,000 people in the Rio Grande Valley live a healthier life through nutrition and exercise going through 2023. And the reason we did that is because I've noticed, like, a lot of my family and friends, they're dealing with obesity, depression. There's a lot more deaths nowadays. I don't know if it's just because we see it now on Facebook and Instagram, like people are passing away through depression, stuff like that. But I feel like working out and lifting weights has changed my life. Like it changed something in my head where I want to be better now. And I want to give that knowledge to people. And when I talk about it, when I say the word fat and obese, it already has a negative connotation and people just turn it off.
Yeah.
So how do I attack this campaign, this movement without, I guess, offending people? Or should I offend people and like, hey, you're fat, change something about it?
Yes, I wouldn't go as far as to go straight up and tell people that. I think it's just showing them the benefits. Another very common tactic here in the Valley is that negative approach. Like you're gonna die, but more people respond to the positive. Like, don't you want to be healthy for when your kids grow up? Don't you want to be able to run with them, to carry them, to have these family outings, to be able to spend good quality time in the long run? Because I think you can address it without having to be so aggressive, but it's realistic. I mean, diabetes is very popular and very common here.
Yeah.
Heart problems, all those things is just realities. And, just you don't have to start working out to become, the next Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
You just have to, as little as 5 to 10% decrease in your body fat has such a huge benefit to your blood sugar levels. So you're not asking them to, get into like sprinting shape, marathon shape, to have the six pack. It's just a little bit. All the changes start from the inside out. So the small changes start to add up. And for people to see, you value family. Family's so important in our culture. And just showing them, like, you want your family, you want to be able to provide for them, you want to be there for them, you want them to be okay. This is something you have to do. It's something that's important for you to do. And it doesn't have to be go spend 4 hours in the gym. Why don't you go to the beach with your family? Put down the phones, go play soccer on the beach, go throw a frisbee, go walk your dog. Exercise and physical activity doesn't have to be the gym. It's very important to build muscle mass, but not everyone's ready to jump into that,
Yeah.
Build up to that. With some people modifying their behavior starts as easy as put on your gym shoes. Just put on your gym shoes today and take them off. Do that for a couple days. Next time, put your gym shoes on and walk to the front door. And just walking them ever so slowly through the process to build that. Because this is playing the long game.
Yeah.
There's no point to getting them to the gym so that they can burn out and to say, you know what, I knew it. I hated this. I never wanted to do this. And I know I hated this.
Yeah, I would say also sometimes here in the Rio Grande Valley, if you're in a family and you're married, you have children or a girlfriend, boyfriend, and you start going to the gym, and then your significant other's like, well, why are you going to the gym now? Like those little cues, I feel like there's a misalignment in relationships, especially, well, I would say here in the Rio Grande Valley, but I would assume it's anywhere, that there's a misalignment in the relationships of the way the relationship, they view each other. Like if you want to start working on yourself, the other person thinks it's a negative thing. Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
It's a very difficult thing to understand and especially to go through. And I feel like there's a lot of misalignment in relationships nowadays. Do you see anything like that?
Yeah, it's very important. One of the biggest things is having that support with the people that you care about. And one of the first things they say is that if you're going to go on this weight loss journey or just a journey to be healthier, you don't have to be so focused on the scale. Just you want to make better choices, better habits. It's so easy because what do? If you go out to a party, here, you want to drink? Nah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Or you go out and you take a meal prep, or you buy a salad, or you try to make a healthier choice. What's the first thing?
Yeah.
This guy trying to be all fit. And sometimes it's just, they don't see it. It's just like, oh, well, you're just trying, but you're just going to fall off the wagon anyway. So why do you do it? Or,
why do you even do it?
Exactly. And so it's so important to have someone that supports you. At that point, you have to find someone, talk to them, have a very real conversation. Like, you know what? I want to do this. I want to stay on track. That accountability increases the probability of you reaching your goals. You have someone that keeps you accountable. There's a dietitian, and he's like, if you could have done it yourself, you would have already.
Right.
You wouldn't be here. Because like, well, why do I need a dietitian? Why do I need someone to keep me accountable? It's so easy. You're telling me to eat my vegetables and my fruit. I knew that already.
Yeah.
I drink more water. I knew that already. Go to the gym. I knew that already. But then you would have done it already.
Right.
So it's so important to have that social support system, like you're saying. And it's misaligned that they see it as like, you're just doing this for a short minute, or you're just trying to show that you're healthy, or the misconception of what healthy is. It's just, like we said, it's the old version of, just eating healthy. Just I'm just going to eat at home, but I don't watch what I eat or how much I eat.
Yeah.
So just making those changes are very important. And the social aspect of it, having someone to be with you through the process is very important as well.
And I do agree with you about having the accountability, because I never knew how to lift weights until I started training, and going to the gym is it's very hard when I weighed 250 pounds when I first started. And for me, going to the gym, I was super uncomfortable. Like, I don't know how to lift weights, for one. And I'm sure 99% of the people at the gym still don't know how to lift weights today. and it's a very interesting thing to see. But going into a gym, getting out of your comfort zone, and and honestly, people are there to work on themselves. They're not looking around at anybody else. So that fear of going in there and being ridiculed and being seen like, oh no, I don't belong here. I'm not like these people. I think that's one of the biggest things that people won't do is they'll get their gym membership and then never go again.
Yeah.
So I just feel like people need to get out of their heads. Like nobody's looking at you. You're the one that's working on yourself. You need to do this for yourself, and everybody around you will get the benefits of it. We were talking about bariatric, what was it called?
Surgery.
So talk about that, because I see that quite a bit lately. A lot of people just go in and get their tube, what is it, the tube tied or what?
Yeah, so there's different kind of surgeries where they're either like put a band around your stomach and intestines to make it smaller, or sometimes even remove a big portion of it. So yeah, I think that goes back to the instant gratification. No one wants to, they tell you, well, I want to lose or I want to go down to this body fat percentage. How long will it take? Well, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, however. No, that's so long. I want it now. And many resource or go to, well, I'm just going to get surgery. But in the end, all that's doing is just limiting how much you're eating anyway. And it can get so complicated because you're taking a body part and you're modifying your insides. It's a very...
Well, for one, you're opening your body.
Yeah, you're getting surgery to, in essence, just bring down the amount of calories you're eating, because that's all it is. The problem is that if there isn't a behavior change that goes along with that, it can go back. The body is so remarkable that the stomach can re-expand again over time. If you don't make those changes, and that's why it's so important. We had patients coming in that had a very manageable amount of weight to lose. It's like, you can do this if you really tried. And with them, it's having to walk them through, as soon as you're out of surgery, you're only going to have like a tablespoon of food a day, and you're going to feel stuffed. And getting them used to what that looks like realistically. And some say, you know what, no, you're right. It's not for me.
It's not worth it, yeah.
On top of that, once you mess with your body, there's nutrients that aren't absorbed the same way anymore. There's a lot of deficiencies. You're going to have to supplement now. You're going to have to be on top of the certain vitamins that your body's not going to be able to absorb anymore because you went in there and you had surgery. And that just increases the risk for other problems that weren't necessary and were unnecessary to be introduced.
Yeah, I had never learned about like macronutrients, protein, carbs, and the fats. Can you kind of touch on hormones and how important they are for life, period, like for your mood, for how you gain weight, how you lose weight? Can you kind of touch on that?
Yeah, so the macronutrients, carbs are going to be like your primary source of energy. So that's what your body's going to primarily run on. So, it's so common and so popular. It's just, I'm doing the carbless diet or I'm cutting out carbs. It's like, well, you really shouldn't be, because they're actually quite important to what you're trying to achieve. Protein is more commonly, everyone knows, I want to build muscle. I got to keep that protein up. Yeah. And fat helps also with some of the energy and just keeping those balanced. In reality, your diet should be like 45 to 60% carbs, and then like 25 to 35% protein, and the rest fat. So carbs is actually a very big chunk of the importance of what you're supposed to be eating, and keto is so popular. Yeah. Like, well, it's making my body start to burn fat. It's like, well, yeah, you're burning more fat, but the ketogenic diet in itself, you are ingesting a lot more fat. So all that fat that you're burning is not really coming from your body. Is just,
and that fat becomes fat. It's not like the protein becomes fat, because one of the most interesting things that I stumbled on was building muscle helps your body from injuries. So that's one of the biggest things that I've learned is like, so now I'm trying to gain as much muscle as I possibly can to get away from injury, because as what I was explained about it is that an easy fall, somebody falling down, like walking outside, that can literally ruin the rest of their life. And can you kind of touch on that as well?
Yeah, I think if an older person were to fall and fracture their hip, the mortality risk, which is the risk of them passing away, increases exponentially. It's something so big, and muscle building is so important to forget everything else, just to be able to stand up. Don't you want to be able to like get up from your chair when you're 70, 80, hopefully 90.
Or even
plus.
to take a shit
Yeah.
by
There you
yourself
go.
when you're 80. I think that's one of the things, like, people laugh about it, but it's true. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want somebody else wiping my ass.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very interesting thing. And I think the way I'm putting it is how people need to see it. Like, you want to wipe your ass by yourself when you're 80. Like, that's a real thing.
Yeah, it's something in the hospital. One of the things we look at is activities of daily living. And that's kind of how we start assessing if the older population is, doing okay. Can you get up? Can you walk? Can you get back up if you fall? Can you feed yourself? Those things start to go down. So it's so important to build that, just to be able to walk. You see some older people that are in really bad shape, and you don't want that for them, You want them
But they're your loved ones.
Exactly.
Man.
You want to see them doing well. You want to see them independent. You want to see them walking, able to enjoy their grandkids, able to just enjoy life,
Yeah.
And it's possible. It's just one of those things that you see the benefits long term,
Yeah.
It's
the
what you put
instant
in
gratification.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting because I started this journey. I've lost significant weight. Now this is my third time in my life, but I've never built muscle before. So now I feel able-bodied, and I only see the benefits now in my 40s because my kids are getting older, and I want to be the dad that's there when my daughter gets married, not some other dude that's with my wife now. I think that's one of the most eye-opening things that gets me into the gym every single week, and watching what I eat is like, I want to be there for my child when they get married. I want to be the one that teaches them how to make money one day. I'm the one that wants to teach them the values and integrity, the things that's going to follow them for the rest of their life, wherever they go. I want to be that person, not some other person that probably doesn't have the same mentality or characteristics or anything. I'm just saying, like, you should be there for your children.
Yeah, and that's that alignment, That's how you should look at it. I mean, because, going and you're fat and you're obese, all you're gonna do is make them close up. People are not gonna want to hear it. I mean, it's very sensitive. But what about that? Don't you want to be there for your children? Don't you want to be healthy? And going to what you mentioned, yeah, most people, it's like, I want to lose weight, cardio. And the importance of building muscle is that the cardio, the calories you burn, so quickly you can get them back, But when you build muscle, that muscle that you gain starts to burn calories even after you're done. So you go to the gym, you burn the calories that you do, and then your body has to expend energy to repair that muscle that you built. And as you build more muscle, you're burning more calories, which is why it's like, well, as people get more muscle, they usually tend to eat more. Mm-hmm. It's like, as you exercise, you get to eat more.
Yeah.
You're not eating less. You need to fuel properly to do those hour and a half, 2 hours.
Well, the argument against that is, I talked about that the other day, and my buddy was like, well, you're just working out so you can eat more. Like, it doesn't even make sense. I was like, I mean, I like
what you're eating.
Yes, what I'm eating is very important. I think I had stumbled upon somebody talking about, I have diabetes. My back is broken. I can't really walk. I'm not going to do anything. Like, I can't physically do anything. What do you say to those people? Like, how do you combat their already negative thoughts of working out? And now I have diabetes. I can't walk. My back is broken. I have all these problems. How do I go forward from this?
Yeah, so, I mean, it takes a team. I mean, it's obviously like your physician, your physical therapist, a dietitian, but there are things you can do. I mean, diabetes is mostly your diet. I mean, physical activity helps too, but the diabetes can be taken care of by what you're eating, by controlling your blood glucose levels. But there are YouTube channels out there. It's just finding a good source that do seated workouts for older people, but maybe that would be adequate for this individual. Maybe just arms and shoulders seated. Maybe just kicking up their legs. Obviously, working with a physical therapist to assess. I mean, because a broken back is a pretty serious injury.
Yeah.
But there are things you can do, and just changing your diet can do so much for you, for your health. Obviously, physical activity is ideal. If for some reason they're restricted or limited, there are ways and there are things that can be done, seated workouts or something. We can find...
There's adjustments.
Yeah, there's adjustments you can make. And the body is quick to adapt and very receptive. Usually we don't see it because it's not always manifested on the scale or it's not always manifested everywhere else. But when you start working out the first couple weeks, like your body starts to change on the inside. You know, those healthier habits, the body is very grateful to what you do to it. So the changes are always from the inside out, just in the same way that when you started to gain the weight or when you started to overeat sugar or whatever it can be, it started on the inside and you just didn't see it until there was some consequences that manifested on the outside.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will wait until something happens, and then by that point, it's just too late. I got lucky. I got very fortunate to be able to get on this journey before I got diabetes and before I got too obese, where it started messing with my actual life. One of the things I was going to ask you was, right now in the Rio Grande Valley, we are McAllen is the most obese city in the nation. If you had an action plan, how do we get out of that number one position?
That's a good question. So I think starting early, I think childhood obesity would be the first thing that we would have to address, because if we want to be healthier in the future, our children are the future, you know? Instilling in them in schools proper, you know, health class is that class that most people don't pay attention. Physical activity or PE is very short. Maybe like, I'm not sure what the amount or the duration is right now, but starting early, teaching them that preventative health is important, getting them out to be active. You know, screen time is such a big thing.
It's huge.
That falls obviously to the parents, you know, limiting screen time, spending more time with family. Something as simple as sitting down and eating with your family. Everyone's so busy now that you're eating out, you're running to work and running to pick up the kids, and then they got a game, and then you end up eating out. It's so rare to hear that, you know, you just sit down and have dinner as a family. No screens, no cell phones, just human interaction. Because when you're eating, your mind, if you're watching TV, all of a sudden you're not paying attention to how much you're eating. Mm-hmm. You're just eating and eating and eating. And all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I'm stuffed. Versus just sitting down, talking, no screens. All of a sudden you become more conscious of what you're eating, how much you're eating. You're like, you know what, I'm starting to feel a little full. Just increasing family time, increasing physical activity with the kids, walk the dog, go out, have a family outing that doesn't involve screens. Just get away from that and enjoy just moving and just
enjoy your family.
Exactly. Yeah. It's something that can make such a big difference, tackling it early, so that once you instill these habits into our kids, they're going to carry them out when they grow up. Most of the time, the hard part is you have to lead by example. You can't tell your kids, eat your veggies and you don't, drink water and you don't, or it's important to exercise, but they never see you do it. So you have to make a conscious effort to be that example, to set that example that I'm trying to eat healthy. If I want you to do this, I have to be the first one to do it. I have to set the example.
Yeah, because even if your kids, they see it. They won't say anything, but they see it. Like when they grow older, they're like, oh, my dad just used to drink Cokes all the time. Like that they see it. They might not tell you, but I think one of the most interesting thing is your ideal weight is not your ideal body. Yeah. And it took me forever to understand that, until there is nothing like a person that lifts weights. Their body is completely different. The way their clothes fits them, the way they feel, the confidence that comes with it. Can you kind of touch on weightlifting, strength training versus the cardio? Because this is something that I just stumbled upon, and for me, it was always wearing the fishing shirts like that. That was my thing. It's like it hides a lot of stuff. And one of my goals was to get away from shopping at Academy. Yeah. So I like to hide all this stuff, right? And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people do is like, I figured this out when I started weight training. Is like, I don't want to be hiding my body anymore. I felt ashamed of my body my whole life. So I started being kinder to myself. And, you know, at the end of the day, nobody really gives a shit. Like, they're just going on with their lives. They have their own problems. Can you kind of touch on the difference between cardio and strength training?
Yeah, so cardio, great for your heart. It's great. That's something that you should do if you have the time, if you can. But as for specifically talking about weight loss, that's where the muscle becomes so important for what you mentioned, for preventing injuries, for burning more calories. That process of more muscle burns more calories. So it's very important. Overall, it just has such a good impact on your body. You feel better. You look better. I don't know if you've ever seen, like, it's so popular on social media, the classic, this is 5 pounds of fat and this is 5 pounds of muscle. And I mean, there's a big difference. And so many times people they romanticize that number on the scale. You know what? If I could just get to whatever, 150, 120, I'll feel good. But many times, like you mentioned, if you unpack it, it's not the number on the scale. It's, I want to feel more confident. I want to have my clothes fit better. And sometimes it's not at that number that they think. Sometimes, I don't know, they're 200 and they get down. They're like, you know what? I want to get down to 150. And they get down to 180 and they're like, I look pretty good. I look, I look strong. I feel good. My clothes fits good. So many times that number is representative of what they actually want. Yeah. They actually want to feel comfortable in their bodies. They actually want to feel like they can move and they're comfortable. And the sad thing is, like you mentioned, you go to the gym and most people are working on themselves, but it only takes one. Yeah. It only takes that one person that
to
makes
say
a comment,
something,
or even looks at you a certain way. And
they might have not even meant it that way. That's the internal things of yourself pushing out into the world. I want to talk about one of the most important things that I think is most important is alcohol. I cut down my alcohol consumption probably about 95%. I just got back from Cancun and I wasn't even drinking that much. So I see it very prevalent here in the Rio Grande Valley. And I feel like a lot of that leads to depression, to anxiety. Can you kind of touch on the fact like how alcohol in excess relates to your depression, to your obesity, to kind of like that?
Yeah. So to put things into perspective, fat has 9 calories per gram, alcohol has 7. Carbs and protein have 4. So, and it's so easy, once again, to drink. Anything. If you drink things, you don't feel full. It just goes right through you. But those calories are still there. And, I mean, usually it's not just the alcohol. It's the alcohol mixed with the soda or the sweetened beverages. And all that gets it's so easy to overeat, to overconsume. When you're at a party, you don't just drink one drink. Yeah. You drink 1, 2, 3. I mean,
as many as you possibly can in most cases here.
So it's so easy. And like you mentioned, one, the calorie surplus can lead to weight gain if you're doing it constantly and you're just not having moderation on how much you're drinking. Obviously, that'll lead to weight gain. Yeah. But so many, like you mentioned, anxiety, depression, could also start to mess up your liver. So many other problems that come associated with alcohol that can speed up the process of very negative effects that you obviously don't want in your body. It's not realistic to say, I'm not going to drink anymore. Some people can. And if you can't sustain that, kudos. But realistically, if you were to poll everyone in the U.S., they're not going to give up their drink. So it's fine. For men, I think the recommended amount is like 2 drinks. And for women, no, I think it's like 2 to 3. And for women, it's like 2, the recommended daily intake. So you can have that. It's just the excess. Most problems start with the excess. Most things in excess are going to lead to weight gain, are going to lead to negative effects.
So what you're telling me is that now I need to cut back on my good food, my tacos, and also cut back on my consumption of alcohol. See, when I hear that, I feel like everybody else in the house, like they're trying to take away all the good stuff from my life. And I don't think people really understand. Like those are the things that are slowly killing you. You're going to end up getting older and you're going to have pain and it's going to get worse and it's going to get worse. And you're going to go into your 70s, 80s. Hopefully you get to live that long. I mean, it's a very profound thing to think about. And I don't think people think about their future. Yeah. They think about the next year, what's going to happen next year. And I get it because the market's going to crash. It's getting harder to live here. There's low-income families here. To kind of touch on the eating habits, like should people go organic? Can they afford it? What should they be shopping at? What's their grocery list at H-E-B? What should it look like? What if they don't even like those foods? Like, how do we combat that? And then the other thing is, too, is like you're living in a family of 4, let's say, for me, example, and I started eating differently. My wife is used to the same stuff that I used to cook. My kids don't even want to touch the healthy stuff that I've started implementing. How do you navigate that? Like, do you have to cook 4 different things? Now that becomes stressful.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's where it's important to, it's so common to, like you mentioned, all right, now I'm going to have to cut out everything. It's like trying to find a healthier version. It's not cutting out completely, and maybe it's not going to taste just as good, but I mean, there are just that awareness of sometimes if you look, like not all tortillas are created equal. Mm-hmm. If you look, there's some you can find like the Mission corn tortillas. There's some that are like 2 for 25 calories, and they're thin. Yeah. And all of a sudden you can have more. Versus if you have the regular tortillas that are dipped in oil, then obviously you're severely limited. Things that you like, experimenting around to find suitable replacements, you know? I like ice cream, and I've found like some Greek yogurts that they sell like in the tubs. It's kind of just like ice cream. It's a little lower in calories, it's a little lower in fat, and instead of having, you know, the big bowl, you know, just portioning it out. This is what one portion looks like. I just want something to get my sweet tooth off. And just navigating that. Yeah. Not cutting everything out, because you can't go from 0 to...
Yeah, I agree.
And with the kids, it's so important to, one, start early introducing them to foods, because it's so common that you see, I don't know, 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds with a Coke bottle.
And Takis and hot Cheetos.
And Takis and hot Cheetos with an iPad, you know? Yeah. So... It takes about I think there was 15 to 20 tries for a child, a baby, to decide if they like a food or they don't. And most parents well, they don't like it. It's like, well, have you tried? You tried once.
Have you really tried? Yeah.
Yeah, have you tried? But how about giving it to them in a different presentation? Maybe they don't like it, the vegetable like that, raw. But it's so common to see that some people don't even know that you can oven cook your veggies, you know? Throw them in the oven for a little bit, or incorporate them into a recipe, finding different ways
to hide it.
Yeah, to hide it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing, and I feel like the Studio 4240 is on a mission to help these 100,000 people, and like I said, the more I dive into it, the less I kind of want to do it. Is that a bad thing though? Because I feel like there's just so much negative things here in the Valley, and I've heard the crab mentality is where people want to pull you back down when you're doing good. So our goal is to help 100,000 people. Is it feasible?
It's a daunting task, but I think when you think about, instead of I need to help 100,000 people, thinking about I gotta help me, and then all of a sudden, yeah, maybe some of your friends will be like, nah. But maybe there's that one friend that's like, you know what? Yeah, I'll go with you. Then all of a sudden, maybe he has a friend that's like, you know what? Yeah, I'll get into that too. Yeah. All of a sudden, people start seeing the positive impact that it has on your life, and most people will want to know why. They'll see like, hey, you look good, or you look better, you look happier, you have more energy. What are you doing? You drinking something? No, I'm just exercising, or I'm eating a bit healthier. Or they'll be like, oh, I noticed you didn't drink as much today. Like, what's up? I'm like, no, I'm just trying to be healthier. I felt really good. It's had a really good impact on my life, and I can do it. And all of a sudden, if you just think about one at a time, I feel like it becomes less daunting. Obviously, it's a very big goal, and it's a very good goal to have. But I think the most important thing is starting with you, you and the impact that your family has. Because you go into a healthier lifestyle, but all of a sudden your wife sees and your children see. Yeah. Let's say you have that positive impact on your children. You said you had 4 in your household, so 2 kids?
Yeah, 2 kids.
Now that's 2 kids that grow up maybe having that mentality, going to the gym. Maybe they impact their friends. All of a sudden, that's a whole amount of people that came from the positive changes that you made that maybe you just didn't realize. You didn't think that would make such a big difference that it does. So I think it's a good thing. I think it is daunting when you think about, the overall goal. It goes the same thing with behavior modification. It's like, yeah, I want to lose 50 pounds. It's like, okay, but what do you have to do today to get there? Or I want to run a marathon, or I want to hit 225 on the bench. It's like, okay, but that means adding 225 every week. Just 2.5 pounds. And that over time starts to make a big difference. Same thing. It took a long time for us to get to this point, sadly, that we're at a point where we're the most obese city in the nation. But same thing, one day at a time, one person at a time, all of a sudden, all of that starts to add up. You focusing on you impacts your family. The people that you're working out with impacts their family. And I mean, hopefully that chain reaction starts to build. And the good is that fitness has gotten to become more popular. You see a lot more kids, like, I don't know, 15, 16, that they're, posing against the mirror. It's becoming more popular. It's just steering them in the right direction, finding good role models, good people, realistic expectations, good goals to follow, not getting to, I'm going to dirty bulk and eat whatever I want, and then I'll just shred later. You want them to, build the good foundation, the good habits. It's always the boring stuff that makes a difference,
Yeah, for sure.
Learning the proper form, learning the slow things. But in the end, those are the things that make the big difference. And I think it's a noble cause, and I think it is possible. I think making a difference, one person at a time, will make a difference over time. It's just making that decision to make the difference in you so that you can impact others. Because you can't give what you don't have.
Right, exactly.
You can't say, try this.
And you've never done it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So McAllen being the most obese city in the nation, surrounding cities, I don't hear city officials talking about this. I don't hear state officials talking about this. Is this something that they're not interested in? Or is it take away from the economy of it? What is it? Why aren't they talking about it? Why aren't they at the forefront of it? Why do they got to wait for somebody that's a resident that their family is dying from it or their friends are dying from it? Why isn't it coming from the top?
That's a good question. I feel like it goes back to that it's not a priority, Like you mentioned, I'm sure that they have, I don't know, a million and one things to do on their plate, and they're being spread out in different directions, and it's just not viewed as a priority. It's just viewed as like something that happens, Like, I got diagnosed with diabetes. It's something that happened.
Yeah.
And not really stopping to think that it was based on decisions that were made over time that got to that point. It's not just because, I'm predisposed to diabetes, so I'm going to get it. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, you have a higher chance, but there's so much you can do to prevent it. It's not something that you have to just, wait and, it's going to happen, so it's going to happen. So it doesn't matter what I do.
Yeah.
It'll happen to me. So I think it's that, and just, again, maybe it being so daunting that, 100,000 people that we have to change, and they don't want to change, and it's a long process. It's a tedious process.
Like, if I feel that way, I can imagine,
Exactly.
like, why would I even bother with that?
Yeah, and if it's not a priority to others, like to the population, then I feel like it's not gonna be such an urgent matter to address for the higher ups either. There are probably more pressing matters, and again, health is treated as a luxury. It's like, if you had to cut one thing before you cut a class, you'll probably cut the PE time. Mm-hmm. If you had to cut costs, instead of, addressing something else, they might address the food in the cafeteria. It's things that are so easy to let go. Like, just do this or do that. Give them soda. It doesn't matter. Maybe it's even cheaper. But it has consequences in the long run. Yeah. And so I feel like just changing that mindset to the health is not a luxury. Health is, in the long run, something that can bring down the medical costs, the cost of hospitals. Healthier population will lead to a much
Which
happier
seems like
population.
more hospitals keep popping up here.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing.
Yeah, well.
So from all your years of being in nutrition and being in this industry, what is the best insight that you can give, like some hope for people?
I think the best insight that I can give is that the small changes make a big difference. It's the small, consistent changes that make a big difference. Don't think about a year from now. Don't think about a year and a half. Just focus on today. Did you do what you could today? Can you go to bed tonight thinking like, I did what I had to do? I don't know, walked more. I drank a little more water, and just small over time. Don't get so caught up on the number on the scale. Don't get so caught up on the small things. Just focus on what you can do. Sometimes it's as easy as, I have an office job. Make it a goal to walk 200 more steps today.
Or even stand up.
Yeah, stand up, get up, walk, drink some water. Make it something to do. Just something as easy as that. And all of a sudden, once you see a little bit of progress, you get motivated and you start to think, okay, yeah, I can do this. I can do 200 steps. I can do 300. I can do 400. Next thing you know, you're hitting 10,000 steps in a day. And next thing you know, you're like, yo, no, I'll try the gym. I want to try the gym. You fall in love with weightlifting, or maybe you fall in love with a sport. You know, I want to play soccer. So it's finding something that's sustainable for you. Everyone's so different. Bodybuilding workouts might work for you, but they might not work for the next person.
Yeah.
Finding something that works for you, something small. Start small. The small, constant wins will build up that self-confidence to take on the bigger challenges. I think if you set your goals so high with such a small time frame to achieve them in, you're setting yourself up to be disappointed in yourself when sometimes it's not even, like realistic.
Yeah.
You have to adjust what you can achieve in a certain amount of time. The recommended amount of weight that you should be losing is like a pound to 2 pounds a week. And some people are like, yeah, I want to drop, I don't know, 30
40.
pounds. Yeah, I want to drop 30 pounds in this month. It's like, well, the risk is when you do that, you also lose some muscle. I mean, it's coming from somewhere. So just monitoring, building up that knowledge.
And knowing your numbers, I think, is one of the most interesting things for me. When I started, and I know it's not recommended that you weigh yourself all the time, but I'm on a different journey. I'm trying to track my weight. So counting my calories, weighing my food, going to get these in-body analyses were very eye-opening for me because, for one, I started actually seeing numbers. I started seeing body fat percentages. I started seeing skeletal mass, like muscle mass, those things normal people don't ever see. And then when I started counting my calories and seeing the macronutrients on paper, like, oh shit, like these are tangible, real things that I get to look back at. And then over time, I get to track. And I think one of the things is that it's so tedious that most people don't want to do it. But I've been on track I'm going on 9 months where I started tracking everything. And now I recently stopped counting the stuff because I kind of already have the idea of what I'm already eating and what I need. So when I go back to dieting, that's when I'll start tracking again. But people need to understand that these are all tools.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing, but I don't think people just don't get it until they see their own numbers.
Yeah, you can't make change if you don't have awareness.
Yeah.
You can't make a change if you don't know what the problem is. And like you mentioned, it's sometimes like I'm eating 1,200 calories, but you're really not. If you're honest with yourself and you start to track and start to really calculate and quantify what you're eating without cheating yourself, you'll get a better picture of what it is. And most people it might feel like a failure, but like you mentioned, it's just these are tools. Yeah. The tracking, for some people, they can track every day for the rest of their lives, and that's no problem. And if that's sustainable, that's perfect. That's great. For other people, it's like track for some time. Get used to what your plate is supposed to look like, not what like the portions are now. What your plate should look like. And all of a sudden, like you mentioned, you kind of get a knack for what the plate's supposed to look like. And that's a little too much. That's a little too little. And you start to get that habit of what it's supposed to look like. For other people, it's like, well, you know what? I hate numbers. I don't want to deal with numbers. It's like, okay, there's a great resource. It's called My Plate. It's a digital visual plate that just kind of divides the plate. I'm sure you've seen it. Mm-hmm. It's like half of it has to be like veggies and fruit, and then the other two halves is your protein and your carbs. Things like that for more visual people. Just finding how you learn and addressing it. But yeah, if you can get your numbers, that's great. It's great to know where you're at. The number and the scale can mean so many things.
Yeah, absolutely.
We definitely don't like to go by that. We usually like to go by like body fat percentage, so more accurate. And as you've been doing, I'm sure you know that your weight fluctuates every day with how much you ate, how much sodium you had, if you're retaining water.
Even if you drink beer on the weekend, it can go up to 5 pounds.
Yeah,
crazy.
And most people see that and they're like, I gained 5 pounds. Like, well, no.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably have 5 pounds more, but you didn't gain 5 pounds in fat, you know? Like, that's not what happened. So creating that awareness and that knowledge of what the weight means, how that tool is used, how these apps to track are used, being aware that they're not 100% accurate. Our bodies are so complex that even like the calculations to see how many calories you need are not 100% accurate. They're going to fluctuate on days that you're less active, on days you're more active. All of those things change, and just being able to understand that, I feel brings a sense of peace.
Yeah.
That like, oh, today it says I would weigh 10 pounds more. But when you know, like, well, I ate pretty late last night. I ate a pretty heavy meal. So yeah, it's normal that it's going to look a little bit different on the scale. Finding more accurate ways to measure your progress is, I feel, would be beneficial.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. So we are striving to help 100,000 people here in the Rio Grande Valley live a healthier lifestyle going to 2023 and on. And obviously it's going to take awareness. So join our cause at 100,000strong.org. We'll see you guys next time. Bye. Sweet, dude.